Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with a bold truth. We're losing muscle faster than we realize, and it's costing us our strength, our mobility, and our independence. Sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss, is not just an older person's problem. It begins as early as our 30s, accelerates every decade, and silently steals the one thing we depend on every single day, our functional strength. But the exciting news: there is a natural, powerful, and almost shockingly effective food that beats whey protein, a food that builds muscle, restores vitality, and helps shut down sarcopenia at its roots. And that food is collagen. Why collagen changes everything. Most people still think whey protein is the gold standard for building muscle. And while whey has its benefits, collagen offers what whey can't. Collagen contains the amino acids glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline, critical building blocks for connective tissue, tendons, ligaments, and the scaffolding that holds your muscles together. It improves joint mobility, which means you can train harder and recover faster. It strengthens the fascia and connective tissues that support muscle growth. It rebuilds the soft tissue matrix, giving your muscles the foundation they need to grow stronger. Muscle isn't just about the fibers we see, it's about everything holding those fibers in place. And collagen is the missing link most people ignore. The real problem: sarcopenia is a lifestyle disease. Let's be honest, most people aren't losing muscle because they're aging. They're losing muscle because their lifestyle is aging them. Too much processed food, too little movement, too much stress, too little sleep, and not enough collagen. Rich nutrition. Your muscles aren't disappearing because of your age, they're disappearing because your body is missing the raw materials it needs to rebuild. What happens when you start adding collagen? Here's what you can expect. Heavy checkmark: improved muscle repair after workouts. Heavy checkmark: less joint pain during exercise. Heavy checkmark: increased mobility, allowing you to move like you're years younger. Heavy checkmark: better tendon and ligament resilience. Heavy checkmark: a stronger, more functional body. Not just bigger muscles. This isn't hype. This is the biological reality of how your body rebuilds itself from the inside out. How to use collagen to fight sarcopenia. Take 1-2 scoops of collagen daily, morning or post. Workout works best. Pair it with strength training, just 10-20 minutes a day. Add protein, rich foods like eggs, salmon, grass-fed beef, and legumes. Get deep sleep. That's when muscle repair switches on. Reduce inflammatory foods, sugar, refined oils, and processed carbs. Do these consistently, and your body will respond in ways you may not have felt in years. Let's build a stronger you. Starting today, your future strength, mobility, and independence depend on the choices you make right now. Sarcopenia is not waiting, your body is not waiting, your health is not waiting, but neither is your potential. Choose collagen, choose strength, choose a lifestyle that rebuilds your muscle instead of losing it. Now is the moment to reclaim your body's natural power. Now is the moment to take control of your health. Start today. Your stronger, healthier future begins with one decision. Let's fight sarcopenia together. 1. Whey isn't enough. Muscle loss starts with weak connective tissue. Most people focus on muscle fibers, but sarcopenia begins in the tendons, ligaments, and connective tissue areas. Whey protein doesn't effectively support. 2. Collagen is the superior muscle building foundation. Collagen provides glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline, essential amino acids that rebuild the structural network. Muscle growth depends on making it more effective for total body strength. 3. Collagen reverses the hidden damage behind sarcopenia. As we age, collagen levels drop, weakening joints and fascia. Supplementing restores joint integrity, tissue resilience, and mobility, stopping sarcopenia at its root. 4. Better recovery equals more muscle growth. Collagen enhances workout recovery by repairing damaged tissues faster than whey. Less pain, quicker repair, stronger training sessions, a formula Whey can't match. 5. Muscle retention isn't just about protein, it's about movement. Combining collagen with strength training accelerates muscle building and slows age-related decline dramatically, creating results far beyond protein alone. 6. Daily collagen plus smart lifestyle choices destroy sarcopenia over time when paired with quality sleep, anti-inflammatory foods, and consistent training. Collagen becomes a powerful weapon that helps prevent and reverse muscle loss naturally. If you'd like, I can turn these into a bullet slide, expand them, or build a full outline for your speech. Most people think muscle loss begins in the gym, or rather, from not going to the gym enough, but the truth is far deeper and far more often overlooked. Muscle doesn't start disappearing because your biceps got weaker or because your legs forgot how to squat. It begins in the foundation, the structural framework that holds every muscle fiber in place. And this is exactly where whey protein falls short, because the primary weakness behind early muscle loss isn't in the muscle tissue itself, it's in the connective tissue that surrounds, supports, and stabilizes it. Imagine your muscles as powerful engines. They might be strong, capable, and ready to perform. But what happens if the engine mounts, the components holding that engine in place begin to weaken, stiffen, or degrade? The engine doesn't function the same, its power doesn't transfer correctly, its efficiency drops. Eventually, it strains other parts of the system just to keep running. That's what happens inside your body when your connective tissues weaken, and it happens far earlier than most people realize. Connective tissue, your tendons, ligaments, cartilage, and fascia, is made up primarily of collagen. These tissues act like anchors, bridges, and shock absorbers. They allow your muscles to contract smoothly, transfer force effectively, and recover after stress. But as collagen levels decline with age, or with chronic stress, poor diet, or inflammation, those tissues begin breaking down long before your visible muscles do. Every jump, lift, bend, and twist becomes heavier on the system. The muscle fibers have to work harder to compensate. Fascia becomes tight and sticky, joints feel stiff, tendons lose their elasticity, and your body quietly shifts into a state where building muscle becomes harder and losing it becomes easier. This is the silent setup for sarcopenia. It doesn't begin with shrinking arms or thinning legs. It begins with compromised connective tissue that no longer supports your muscles the way it did in your teens, 20s, or early 30s. And here's the important part. Whey protein doesn't rebuild or strengthen connective tissue. It isn't designed to. Whey focuses on muscle fiber repair, not the collagen-based system that keeps those fibers supported. So even if you're hitting your protein targets and staying active, if your connective tissue is weak, your muscle building efforts hit a ceiling. You don't recover fully, you don't generate the same strength output, you don't build muscle as easily. Over time, this gap widens into noticeable muscle loss. Collagen, on the other hand, directly feeds the tissues responsible for structure, stability, and movement. These tissues are the first to decline with age and the first to need replenishment. When they weaken, your muscles suffer. When they strengthen, your muscles thrive. This is why people who introduce collagen into their routine often report that they feel better before they look better. Less stiffness, better joint mobility, smoother movement, quicker warm-ups, and faster recovery. It's not magic. It's simply giving your body the raw materials it's been missing. If you want to understand why collagen outperforms whey when it comes to preventing sarcopenia, start with the foundation. Your muscles can only be as strong as the tissues holding them together. Strength begins where connective tissue begins, and ignoring this truth is the fastest path to muscle decline. Strength begins at the foundation, rebuild it, and everything else follows. When people think about building muscle, they almost always picture the same thing: pumping iron, breaking down muscle fibers, then feeding those fibers with a big scoop of whey protein. It's a routine that's been pushed for decades, and yes, it works to some degree. But if you've ever followed that formula and still struggled with nagging injuries, slow recovery, or frustrating plateaus, it's not because you're doing something wrong. It's because you're missing a critical piece of the muscle building puzzle that Whey simply can't provide. Muscle isn't just about protein quantity, it's about the right kind of protein, and collagen delivers the exact amino acids your body needs to rebuild strength from the inside out. What makes collagen so different is that it feeds the structural tissues that support and surround your muscles. These tissues don't grow from leucine or branch-chain amino acids alone. They rely on glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline, three amino acids that are incredibly abundant in collagen but largely absent from whey. These amino acids play a major role in repairing the internal framework that allows your muscle fibers to contract smoothly and respond powerfully. Think of your muscles as a skyscraper. The visible parts, the walls, the glass, the steel framing, might look solid, but without the hidden support beams beneath them, the entire structure becomes unstable. Collagen supplies those invisible beams, and here's the part people don't realize. Strong connective tissue doesn't just support muscle, it actually improves your ability to build it. When tendons and fascia are firm and well-nourished, they transfer strength more efficiently. Every repetition becomes more productive. Every workout becomes more effective. Recovery speeds up because the underlying tissues aren't frayed or inflamed. And instead of hitting a wall where progress slows down, you break through plateaus with ease because your body is structurally capable of lifting heavier, training harder, and repairing itself more intelligently. This is why collagen feels like such a game changer for people who incorporate it consistently. They don't just notice a difference in the mirror, they feel it in their joints, in their stability, in the way their body moves with more fluidity and less resistance. They warm up faster, their flexibility increases, and they stop battling the kind of stiffness that usually holds people back from pushing themselves physically. It's the kind of improvement you can't measure with a tape measure or a weight scale, but you can absolutely feel every time you bend, squat, or reach. Another powerful thing about collagen is how it supports the areas most vulnerable to aging. Whey protein repairs muscle fibers, but collagen strengthens everything that keeps those fibers together, making your body more resilient against the early signs of sarcopenia. Instead of patching the surface, it reinforces the entire network. When collagen synthesis increases, muscle construction becomes smoother and more efficient. You recover the strength you thought you lost with age, and in many cases, you discover that your body was capable of far more. You just hadn't given it the materials it needed. Whey is good for surface-level repair, but collagen is the protein that fortifies the foundation of strength itself. Feed the foundation, and real muscle growth takes care of itself. One of the most misunderstood aspects of aging is where decline actually begins. People assume it starts with weaker muscles or slower metabolism, but in reality, the earliest signs of age-related loss show up in places we rarely pay attention to. The tissues we can't see but rely on every second of every day. Sarcopenia doesn't appear out of nowhere, and muscles don't just shrink without reason. The process begins quietly, gradually, and in the background, in the intricate web of connective tissue that keeps your muscles stable, elastic, and functional. This hidden damage builds up for years before the first obvious signs of muscle loss ever appear. And that's exactly why many people feel weaker long before they look weaker. Collagen is the primary component of these connective tissues, and as the body naturally produces less of it over time, the entire system begins to degrade. The fascia becomes rigid instead of flexible, tendons lose their smooth, gliding quality, ligaments become more prone to strain. Joints start to feel swollen or achy after basic activities, and everyday movements like climbing stairs or bending to pick something up create more friction and microtears in the tissues than they Used to, none of this is dramatic or sudden. It's small, subtle, and easy to dismiss. But these small breakdowns matter. They accumulate, and they set the stage for sarcopenia long before we notice our clothes fitting differently or our strength declining at the gym. When connective tissue weakens, the body is forced to compensate. Muscles must work harder to perform the same tasks because the structures meant to support them are no longer doing their job. Over time, this constant compensation taxes the system, recovery slows down, fatigue increases, performance drops, and slowly, muscle begins to disappear not because it wasn't used, but because it wasn't supported. This is the hidden damage that so many people overlook. You can eat plenty of protein, lift weights consistently, and still struggle against this quiet decline because traditional protein sources don't rebuild connective tissue. They don't rejuvenate fascia, they don't restore elasticity to tendons or reinforce ligament strength. They help with muscle fiber repair, yes, but sarcopenia starts before the fibers ever fail. It begins in the scaffolding around them. Collagen goes where other proteins can't. It directly nourishes the tissues affected earliest and most aggressively by aging. When you introduce collagen back into your daily routine, you're essentially reversing the breakdown at its root. Stiffness begins to fade, joints move more freely, tendons regain their suppleness, fascia becomes smooth and hydrated again. And suddenly, your body stops fighting itself. This is why so many people report feeling younger when they take collagen, not because they're imagining it, but because the foundational tissues that influence mobility, balance, and strength are actually healing. Once that foundational damage is addressed, your muscles can finally perform the way they were meant to. They can grow, they can recover, they can rebuild without the burden of compensating for tissues that were never designed to carry the full load. This is how collagen targets sarcopenia before it steals your strength, repair the hidden damage, and you reclaim the power you thought you lost. One of the biggest misconceptions about building muscle is the belief that growth only happens in the gym. People repeat the idea that you have to train harder or lift heavier, but the real transformation, the part that actually rebuilds and strengthens your body, happens during recovery. That window between workouts when your cells repair, your tissues regenerate, and your body adapts to the stress you placed on it is where the magic actually occurs. And this is exactly where collagen shows its true power. Because while whey protein helps with surface-level muscle repair, collagen supports the deeper layers of recovery that determine how well you bounce back and how far you can push your strength. Think about those days when you show up ready to train, but your joints feel stiff, your tendons feel tight, and everything takes twice as long to warm up. That's not a muscle problem. It's a recovery problem. It means the connective tissues didn't rebuild fully from your last workout. So instead of operating at 100%, your body is working with a compromised foundation. When this happens consistently, workouts become harder, fatigue hits faster, and the risk of injury increases. With every session, your effort goes up while your progress goes down. Collagen changes that dynamic because it rebuilds the tissues that take the biggest beating during training. When you lift weights, yes, your muscles experience microtears, but so do your tendons, ligaments, and fascia. These tissues absorb shock, stabilize joints, and transfer force during every movement. They're the first to feel strained and the last to fully recover if they aren't being nourished properly. And because connective tissue contains far less blood flow than muscle, it heals at a slower pace unless you give your body the specific amino acids it needs to repair it. That's exactly what collagen provides. When collagen becomes part of your routine, recovery starts to feel different. Post-workout soreness becomes more manageable and it fades faster. That lingering tightness in your knees or shoulders doesn't drag into the next day. You wake up feeling able to move instead of feeling like you need half an hour of stretching just to loosen up. This means your next workout doesn't feel like you're starting from behind. You enter it with a body that's actually ready, joints lubricated, tissues strengthened, and muscles supported. And when your recovery improves, everything else improves with it. You train with better form because your body moves more naturally. You lift heavier because your joints aren't holding you back. You progress faster because your tissues regenerate more efficiently. You avoid the setbacks that so often derail fitness routines: overuse injuries, tendon irritation, joint pain, prolonged soreness. With collagen, the body isn't fighting to keep up. It's rebuilding itself the way it's supposed to. This is why collagen feels like an unfair advantage when it comes to building muscle and resisting sarcopenia. It doesn't just help you heal, it helps you heal better. It allows you to train consistently, progressively, and safely. 3 things absolutely essential for maintaining muscle as you age. Because no matter how motivated you are, no matter how hard you train, real progress depends on how well you recover between sessions. Better recovery isn't optional. It's the engine that drives growth, and collagen is the fuel that keeps that engine running smoothly. One of the biggest challenges people face when trying to build or maintain muscle is the idea that protein alone, no matter how much you take, can solve everything. If that were true, anyone who drank a couple of shakes a day would be strong, energized, and age-proof. But the human body simply doesn't work that way. Muscle is not built in isolation. It's built through a combination of movement, tension, recovery, and the signals your body receives through your daily habits. And this is where collagen becomes such a powerful partner, because while it nourishes the structures that support muscle, movement is what activates those structures and tells your body, hey, it's time to grow stronger. The reality is this: if you're not moving your body, you're losing muscle no matter how much protein you consume. Movement is the trigger, the spark that awakens muscle fibers, stimulates the nervous system, and activates the pathways responsible for growth. Even simple resistance like body weight exercises, light dumbbells, or daily functional movements signals your muscles and connective tissues to rebuild themselves stronger than before. But if you pair that movement with collagen, something remarkable happens. You're not just stimulating muscle, you're supporting the exact tissues that movement stresses the most. Collagen strengthens your tendons, ligaments, and fascia, which means they can handle more load, more repetition, and more intensity with less wear and tear. Especially when doing important as we age, because one of the differents earliest reasons people stop exercising consistently is discomfort, achy knees, stiff shoulders, tight hips, or the sense that their body simply doesn't bounce back like it used to. These aches aren't just random, they're signals of connective tissue fatigue. When those tissues don't have the raw materials needed to repair themselves, movement becomes uncomfortable, and people naturally do less of it. Less movement leads to more muscle loss, and more muscle loss accelerates the onset of sarcopenia. But with collagen supporting the foundation, movement becomes easier, smoother, and more enjoyable. Joints feel more cushioned, tendons feel more responsive. There's less friction, less resistance, and more fluidity in every step and stretch. That's when the real magic starts to happen. You begin to want to move more. Your body actually encourages it. And as movement becomes part of your daily rhythm, whether it's walking, lifting, stretching, or training, your muscles receive a consistent signal to grow stronger, not weaker. This combination is what slows age-related decline more effectively than anything else. Collagen provides the building blocks, movement provides the stimulus. Together, they address both sides of the sarcopenia equation: the physical demand your body needs and the structural nourishment required to meet that demand. You don't need hours in the gym or extreme workouts. A few minutes of intentional strength work, paired with the right nutritional support, can transform your ability to maintain muscle, mobility, and vitality well into the later decades of life. Because ultimately, muscle isn't maintained by protein alone. It's maintained by a body that is structurally supported and consistently in motion, and collagen makes staying in motion possible. When people hear the word sarcopenia, they picture something distant, something that happens later, something that creeps in slowly over time. But the truth is, sarcopenia is not a sudden event or an overnight shift. It's a gradual decline shaped by years of small habits, tiny choices, and nutritional gaps that quietly wear down the body's ability to maintain strength. And that's why collagen, when supported by the right lifestyle, becomes such a powerful force in stopping and even reversing this decline. It doesn't work in isolation. It works in synergy with how you live, move, sleep, and fuel your body every single day. When you introduce collagen into your routine, you're giving your connective tissues the exact materials they need to stay strong. But when you pair that with intentional choices like restorative sleep, anti-inflammatory foods, and consistent movement, you create the perfect internal environment for muscle preservation. This combination is what turns collagen from simply a supplement into a long-term strategy for resilience. You're not just rebuilding tissue, you're shaping a physiological state where muscle loss slows, stability improves, and strength becomes sustainable. Sleep plays a massive role here. Most people underestimate how transformative deep, high-quality sleep really is. It is during sleep that your body releases growth hormone, repairs tissue damage, and performs the cellular cleanup necessary to prepare your muscles for the next day's demands. Without deep sleep, even great nutrition can't reach its full potential because the body doesn't have the regenerative window it relies on. Collagen integrates beautifully into this process because it supports the tissues most actively repaired during sleep: muscle, fascia, tendons, ligaments, and joints. When those tissues are nourished, the body uses sleep more efficiently, and recovery becomes richer and more complete. Then there's the role of inflammation. Chronic inflammation is one of the quietest drivers of accelerated aging. It interferes with protein synthesis, disrupts hormone balance, and creates an internal environment where muscle tissues break down faster than they rebuild. Diets high in processed foods, refined oils, and sugar fuel this inflammatory cycle. But when you shift toward whole foods, fruits, vegetables, omega-3, rich fats, clean proteins, herbs, and spices, you create a biological setting where collagen can thrive. Reduced inflammation means collagen is used for rebuilding rather than being diverted for damage control. And with consistent movement, everything ties together. Your muscles receive the activation they need, your connective tissues receive the support they crave, and your body receives the signal that strength is still a priority. Even light daily strength work, squats, lunges, pushes, pulls, tells your body to hold on to muscle rather than sacrifice it during metabolic stress. Collagen then reinforces the system, making those movements easier, safer, and more effective. This is where the long-term power lies, not in a single habit, but in the layering of supportive choices. Collagen becomes the anchor fueling tissue repair, boosting mobility, reducing discomfort, but it's the lifestyle wrapped around it that makes the transformation last. You build a body that doesn't just resist sarcopenia, but actively reverses the patterns that lead to it. Because when collagen meets consistent movement, restorative sleep, and inflammation, lowering nutrition, muscle loss doesn't stand a chance.